for coming to Yin tonight. This just happens to be the last class of the week before my weekend of Friday and Saturday. So it's such a wonderful way to wind it all down. But always glad to have all of your smiling faces here. And prop wise, if there's a couple of blocks, pillow, cushion, maybe a towel or blanket, you guys know the drill, but there will be opportunities to use all the things. And we're going to start again this evening in a child's pose. If you would like, you can set your forearms down on the blocks, let the hips go back, and then let the head drop between your biceps. Just give a little extra lift to the shoulders and opening through the chest. So see if it works, and if not, you can choose an alternative child's pose or another posture. This is wonderful. Everybody was here last night. So this is just a continuation with our practice of Asteya, or non-stealing. In Sanskrit, the A is non, and then the root of the word is the what we're not doing. So ahimsa, non-violence, asteya, non-stealing, aparigraha, non-grasping or non-attachment. So this is building on from last night, moving into the practice with this spirit and this knowledge that we have everything we need. And if you liked that mantra last night, you can use it again. I actually distilled it down a little bit tonight. I have everything I need. Sometimes with mantra, it's the simpler the better. Mantra can even be one word or one sound. So as we take this practice of Yin, it's coming from the other side of our yoga practice than our vinyasa, our more active asana. But we still have opportunities to build on poses, taking additional steps. And within that, there's opportunity to stop and notice and observe when we have enough at a certain level, when there's no need to go any further. So embodying Asteya tonight in our practice. Just notice when you've taken enough, when taking more would not be serving you. Trying your best to at least pause, if not stop at that point, just to listen and observe. As you continue to arrive and breathe in this first shape of child's pose, just notice how your breath is feeling in your body. The rise and fall, particularly through the back side of the body, the spine. A gentle wave undulation with the breath. Take a few more rounds where you are, allowing yourself to become really grounded, really fully arrive into your practice. As you are ready, we'll let the blocks scoot to the side or whatever prop, if you're using one. Come into a little bit of movement here, rolling your forehead side to side. Just opening the way for that movement and slowly rising up to your hands and knees. When you're set for that, keeping your eyes closed down if that's comfortable for you. If at any point it's not, you can let the gaze rest just in front of you. Finding your way into some movement here, maybe through a few sets of cat and cow. Maybe you're pulled to stretch the legs out. So follow that intuition of the body. Go where you need to go. For our next posture, I'm going to recommend a blanket or towel underneath the knees. This will actually serve the next few postures. So letting those knees be nice and padded. You know, say even if you don't have any specific knee issues or your knees don't generally bother you, be grateful for that, but also let yourself get a little comfier than maybe you might normally. And then once you're ready here, leaving our hips aligned over the knees, start to walk your hands forward. Let them come out as far as they can until you feel like those hips need to come forward to advance any more. And then elbows come down, chest starts to get heavy, and forehead, it could come to a block or a pillow. Maybe it comes all the way to the mat. This is our melting heart pose, Anahatasana, known in our Yang practice as puppy pose. And tailbone is nice and high. Compression through the shoulders, mid and low back. Feel free to make any adjustments as you're getting situated here. Finding sensation, but also letting the body find some ease where we can relax into the sensation. Not always an easy feat. Seemingly opposite tendencies there. Using your breath to help. Notice if there's any gripping in your legs. Sometimes grounding my shoelace side of the feet is helpful in letting the entire leg relax a little bit more. Let go of that holding. Adding in more of a bend to the elbows if it's getting too intense. In the other direction, these last moments of our hold, or maybe about within a minute, you can explore taking your chin toward the mat. Notice what that does for the posture. This is that moment when we decide, do we go further? Do we need that? Is that ours tonight? Or maybe another day? Take a few more breaths where you are. As you get ready to release, make a little bit of a bend or more of a bend in your elbows to press into the palms, the forearms, and let everything rush back into the shoulders. Maybe you press up to a cat spine, pausing here, releasing that back bend. And keeping the knees parallel to each other, if this works in your body. Take your hips back toward your heels for another child's pose with the knees a little closer together, and let the hands reach back toward your feet, palms facing up, shoulder heads dropping forward. If it's at all restricting your breathing, having your thighs under your rib cage, you can widen out. Just giving a little different variation in our child's pose. Rounding the spine, really letting go of the shoulders. Couple more breaths here as you release. And then let's lift the torso, bringing the shoulders over the hips. You might want to bring the heels in a bit right underneath the sitting bones, and lean back on your hands here to put a little additional pressure on your ankles. This might be enough to stretch your ankles. If so, just stay where you're at. And lifting the knees up slightly will add additional sensation. Just a few, maybe 3 to 4 breaths here more. Release, come forward. Let's return back to our tabletop position. Depending on how deeply you felt that ankle stretch, you can do that little pitter patter or maybe counter tucking the toes. If you're tucking the toes, you may even lift into a downward dog here. So just take a few beats, adding in some nice movement. And we'll return the knees back down. And this might be a good place for your blocks. Props are also something you can take or leave. You guys know that I'm a pretty big fan of most props, but sometimes they work for us and sometimes they don't add anything, in which case we can toss them out. So bring your right foot up between your hands, setting up a low lunge here. Let's keep the foot centered in between your hands, your blocks for now. Finding that joint alignment with the knee stacking over the ankle. Find a couple breaths here. And then on your next inhale, let's come up on the fingertips and lift the chest. Maybe your chin lifts with it. You can even do this with your eyes closed or your drishti higher with your eyes open. On the exhale, let's shift the hips back into a half splits. We're just going to flow this breath to movement for 3 rounds. So find that length in the hamstring. And as you breathe in again, come forward, flatten the toes. Lift the heart up as you sink the hips down. Exhale, shift back. Straightening mostly through that right leg. And keeping my arms forward and finding an arch of the spine here. One more time, coming forward. Hips low, chest high, and exhale, taking it back. It's almost like a variation of cat-cow in the spine with a lunge involved. So Let's return back to our lunge. And see how your hips feel here versus a few moments ago when we first stepped that right foot forward. Maybe there's a little more openness with that movement. So this is a really great posture when we're talking about levels and finding that sweet spot, that perfect, maybe not perfect, I don't like to use the word perfect with yoga, but that ideal level for you on the mat tonight. So it might be right where you're at. You've got different heights. If you're using blocks, you might deepen by coming down onto hands, or if it's too much, coming up a little higher. And come up all the way to the side as well. Hands can also go to the inside. In that case, I like to move my right foot over toward the long edge of the mat, making some more space. So it's like a lizard lunge. Still stacking knee over ankle. And then, of course, we have the option to come down a little lower in the elbows. Really tuning in. Trying not to force past that place where the body starts speaking to you. It doesn't have to be saying anything profound, just I'm feeling something. Let's hang out here, see what happens. When the sensation changes, whether it goes away or lessens, that's when we can go deeper. Or if it intensifies, things kind of heat up and it becomes too much, we always have that option to back off. Hearing those yard work sounds, I apologize. It's a little noisy back there today, but it happens. Go a little bit longer on this right leg. Getting ready to release this and let go. Giving yourself that little heads up that you're about to move, and then carefully lifting up to straight arms if you came down. Easing out of the hips. We'll come back for this half split and stay there for a few breaths to release the hips and lengthen the right hamstrings. Let's release this half splits. Just ease forward into your right leg. Bring your hands to maybe keep the blocks with you on the inside of your right foot. Tuck your back toes to lift that knee, and then walk the hands toward the middle of your mat, finding a wide forward fold here. So with these blocks, you might come down to elbows, your head might relax onto them. Lots of possibilities here, but once again, if you're not using the prop, it's all good as well. Keeping a little micro bend in your knees. Maybe lifting slightly through the tailbone to lengthen out through the hamstrings. Let your arms be somewhere comfortable. Few more breaths here. If you got a little wide with your stance here, you might start to bring the feet in. Soften those knees even a bit more. And once you're ready, let's rise up to stand here in between our two sides of our lunge and just experience this upright stance, stacking the bones of the spine. If it feels good to bring the legs back together, you can do that. I'm going to keep mine wide. And just take a couple breaths, a couple moments here. Maybe the shoulders roll up and back. And then once you are set, you may have anticipated we're going over to the left. So turn over to the left, dropping the right knee down, setting up our lunge over here on the other side. Then as you're ready to take another inhale, move with this for a few breaths. Just get light on the fingers so you can lift the chest here. Thinking of our cow spine. Taking a slight little back bend and then exhaling, rounding, arching, shifting back to that half split. Inhale, coming forward. One breath with one movement, but when our breath is nice and slow and long and controlled, we can still move in the same fashion. So we'll take one more. Come back forward into lunge where we'll pause and stay. Noticing what you're feeling. Your hips often respond very differently to the same posture, so know that this side is unique. Knowing where you can go and knowing that you have that agency to opt in or out. Nearly there. Using your breath particularly, well, always, but especially when it gets uncomfortable. Another breath as you get ready to move. And gently, carefully start to make your way up and release. Taking it back into a little bit longer half split here. If that feels good. Sometimes the discomfort lies in the shape. Sometimes our discomfort can just be in getting still. That takes practice, like any posture, stillness. That's something we're terribly accustomed to. And carefully start to release here. This side will release to all fours. There's anything you need in either of your hips, not just the left that we just worked. Taking alternating three-legged table, three-legged dog. Deep hip work there, so honor your body in your release here. And taking your time, we're going to move to a seated position and set up our butterfly or cobbler's pose. Soles of the feet coming together, knees opening up. Give your heels maybe about a foot or foot plus of space away from your groin, just to make a diamond shape here with the legs. And personally, my knees can come all the way down when I have my heels way in. So we're creating a different shape here intentionally. And with that said, if your legs are feeling unsupported here, blocks, pillows under the knees can be a really nice thing, or even roll a blanket and wrap that around your whole leg formation here. The next point of focus, finding that long and tall spine. If you feel that tendency to round back, sitting on the edge of a blanket or a pillow, block could work. It might be a little high for some, but take your time in setting up. Keeping yourself upright here is a good place to be. If you'd like to walk it into a forward fold, just let the hands make their way forward as you're ready. Whole other set of prop options here. If you're folding, block on top of your shins, your feet, somewhere for your head to land. It really depends on where your body is ending up here. You could even prop your chin and your hands here, putting your elbows on the mat. But if you are far from even being close to the ground here, don't let that seep into your mind as something negative. Every shape will look different on everybody. After the first minute or so, the body starts to settle. The sympathetic nervous system starts to go offline. Body receives that message that it's okay to relax and settle. This is another really great place to stay. There's so many wonderful things about this very shape without adding anything on. If you would like to thread your arms underneath your knees, your shins here, this is called baby tortoise. You might be thinking, okay, what is the purpose of that? But if you can work the arms underneath, let the legs put a little bit of weight on your threaded arms. It adds a bit of depth in the hip stretch here, the outer hips, You might be feeling that. Creates a little deeper fold. And some opening in that mid back, shoulders. Depending on how far you go with it, you can get into those deltoids, rhomboids. Particularly with the breath, you can start to feel some of that stretch and expand. Try to soften into whatever shape you landed in. It's absolutely okay to adjust. Even though it's a practice of stillness, generally speaking, it's okay to make those adjustments. Few breaths more. When you're ready to move, press into the palms, bring your spine upright, stack the bones. Leaning back on the hands, we can release the hips. Maybe just knocking the knees together to counter that external rotation. Windshield wipes are great here. And scooting our props over to the side. Your blanket could stay mid-mat here. We're going to lie down on our backs. And allow the knees to hug in here. Take some time to find rocking movement. Happy baby could even serve you well here. After a lot of hip opening, that might feel good to keep the knees closed. The option here to take a prop in between your knees, your shins. I would say the lowest or maybe second setting if you're with a block. Give your arms a little space here. Take a breath, and then on your exhale, let your knees come over to the left. Dropping into a spinal twist using this block. As you find your way in here, your block might feel better, or your prop, I should say, might feel better under your left knee, or if you've got another one, you could even use both. Right leg could straighten, but see where you're at before you add anything in. There's a freedom on our yoga mats that I think for many of us comes with time and experience in the practice, where we don't feel quite so tied or committed to a certain way of doing things every time, or even taking a step back if we get into a pose and it really just doesn't feel right. As a new practitioner, sometimes we feel obligated to stay there. The teacher said so, and we don't want to call attention to our bodies in a group setting, whatever the case may be. As we continue to practice, that ability to listen, hear what the body is saying, what works, what doesn't work, and then to honor it, to act on it. That is the true advancement in the practice. In my opinion. Not standing on your hands, standing on your head. Listening to the body. We'll come back through our center when you're ready for it. Pause here as long as you need. Taking the knees over to the right once you're ready. This side in my particular body is always a little less spacious, so the fact that my blanket just happens to be here is a really excellent landing space. Stay here as long as you need to. Lift back up through center. Releasing your prop if you've got one. And let's slide that same prop underneath the tailbone for the supported bridge. We're just pit stopping here for a moment. Even though it won't be a long hold, you can still lengthen out the legs. They're really like the hip flexor stretch that this creates. Big lengthening through the front side of the body. From toes to crown. And just enjoy that for a few breaths here. And in fact, if you are really fully enjoying this pose, do not feel the need to move. If you'd like to, with the block still where it is, or prop still where it is, lift the legs up for a supported inversion. Supported waterfall. Some might even refer to this as a supported shoulder stand, but this is a lot less intense than shoulder stand by design. And of course, honoring in both directions. If you would like a more, if you would like a different inversion, if you would like to take a full shoulder stand, a plow pose. You can absolutely take those options. Every time we come onto the mat, we're a little bit different. Sometimes the difference is more notable than others. When we think about it from that angle, we're different every day. Our energy is different. Our body might be feeling differently. The teacher teaching you is different every single time. Our experience is never exactly the same. Going back to our Asteya and not taking what is not ours. When we think of our practice, our poses, just knowing that those don't ever truly belong to us in a permanent fashion. Nothing is permanent. Knowing that can help us release that grip, even just a little bit. When you're ready to release this pose, let your knees bend. Bring your feet to the ground to remove your prop, and then roll the spine all the way down to the mat. Take anything else that you need on your way to your Shavasana. Spreading out on the mat. Or taking an alternative version of your final posture. And once you get there, just take a nice deep breath in through your nose. Release it out with a sigh. And then let your breath go back to that natural, effortless place. Excuse me. I encourage you to take as long as you need in this space that you've created. Being mindful and respectful of your time. If you have other engagements and are ready to come back into movement and breath, just go into it slowly, gently. And take all the time you need on your way to a seated position, bringing hands into heart center. Taking another breath here, inhaling through the nose. Deep sigh out. And bowing our chin to the chest with gratitude, with love, with light, and with honor. We say together, Namaste. Thank you, yogis. Y'all have a beautiful weekend. I will see you next week, I hope.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Bye.